Hi, I'm Jono, and in this video I'm finally going to explain how I get my dark backgrounds with graphite. Also, a huge thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. It goes a long way to keeping this channel going and creating more regular videos. So there are a couple factors that come into play with how I get my background so dark. The first is the graphite that I use, and then it's the paper, which is very important, and lastly the techniques that I use. So I prepare my own graphite powder. I know you can buy from the store, but I've never really found any that can go as dark as what I can get with graphite powder that I prepare myself. The way I do it is I sand down 9B graphite sticks. For those that don't know, 9B is the softest graphite that you can get. If you were to sand down like an HB or a B graphite stick, it just wouldn't go dark, or it wouldn't go as dark as the 9B. So it's quite important that you use 9B graphite sticks. I sand it down with sandpaper. I managed to find this really cool sandpaper from a hardware store that has like little holes in it. I'll try and find an example of it for you. And yeah, that was perfect because as I sand it down, the graphite can fall through the holes and I can collect it and then use it very easily. But if you can't find that, you can just use normal sandpaper. In the beginning, I actually used the blade and I'd kind of carve the graphite off, which took forever. But it also can work. Once you have a nice fine 9B graphite powder, it becomes all about the paper. I'd say this is almost the most important factor that comes into how I get my backgrounds. I've gone into it before with how important I think paper is. I think it was a video about how I prepare my paper. And I just can't stress it enough how important working on good quality paper is. I think for any artist working in charcoal or graphite who's trying to take their work to the next level, it's really important to try and work with the best quality paper you can. So I work with Arches watercolor paper, but I think you can get similar results from other brands like Fabriano or any other good quality watercolor manufacturer. It's important to experiment a bit and try different things out because each manufacturer they use different glues to bind papers together, and sometimes that glue can react with the charcoal or the graphite in a different way. And you'll find, I can't remember the brand, but I found that there's sometimes like a waxy texture on the paper which doesn't work well with graphite. The Arches, for me, it just absorbs the graphite so well, and I think that's really lent itself well to how I've been able to get these dark backgrounds. And also just in the drawings, you're able to get really dark tones. The other thing is the paper needs to have a bit of a grit. The more grit it has, or like the rougher the surface, the more it can absorb graphite. And that's obviously very important, but you also don't want to have like a cold press rough watercolor paper where you can't really go into detail unless that's your style. I suppose it depends on what you're trying to do. But for me, I really enjoy a smooth surface that I can kind of get into fine details, but also that can absorb graphite. So that's why the Arches hot press work really well for me because it kind of serves both purposes, where I can get really nice dark tones because of the grit and I can get really fine details because of the smoothness of the surface. Okay, so let me give a quick shout out to this video sponsor, Squarespace. It's so important for me to work with a company that I think can help artists and creatives, and I think Squarespace is one of these companies. It's maybe worth making a whole video sometime about my opinion on how to pursue a career in art, but I think a big part of that video would be to create an online portfolio, and Squarespace is an amazing platform to actually do that with. I've been working with Squarespace for 3 or 4 years now, and I was just looking for a really simple way to show my work and for clients to get a hold of me. And I didn't want to have to update or patch my website, and Squarespace was pretty simple. You don't ever have to worry about updating. You can do things like create an online store or register a domain, which makes it really simple. It's kind of really easy to work with, and their support team is amazing as well. So every time I've had an issue, it's been really nice to have people to help me out with that. But yeah, I think it's important to have a simple solution, and for me, that was Squarespace. If you want to jump in and give it a try, and if you decide that you like it, you can use the offer code in my description to get 10% off your first purchase. So lastly is my technique. I like to work with cotton wool when I'm doing my backgrounds. I think it's the easiest way to get a uniform tone. I think in one of the comments someone was saying something like cotton and wool are two different materials, and yeah, I know that. It's just in South Africa, or we just call this cotton wool. So I'm not sure if you guys call it something else in other parts of the world, but this is what it looks like, and you can kind of just tear off, a piece and turn it into a little bit of a a nib like that and use this to apply the graphite or push the graphite into the paper. So I'll use the cotton wool to spread the graphite around evenly and go over it a couple times and make sure I'm getting a nice even tone, and also make sure that I'm pushing as much of the graphite into the paper as possible to get as dark as possible. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Leave a like if you did. It really helps the channel out in a big way. And let me know what you guys think in the comments, what you'd like me to talk about in the next videos. I try to go through all the comments and reply to as many as I can, so hopefully if you have any questions I can get back to you about those as well. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.